let's talk intakes. In the last video, I showed you guys that I picked these intakes up for one I had, and then I picked up the Gen 2 V8 intake. We're going to do the swap of this Gen 2 V8 intake into the Rambler, which has a Gen 1 AMC V8. So let's, first things first, let's take a look at the top differences. The obvious one is going to be that massive 4-barrel hole compared to that 2-barrel. If we head over to the Rambler, we have a 4-barrel on there now. You can't really tell, but it's a Holley 600 CFM 4-barrel. Same exact intake design, with the exception of obviously the 4-barrel holes. And on the one that I have in the car, I had them drilled out for the newer Holleys. So this one is a single plane. These were like dual plane. So a little bit different there. Obviously, the size is different. On the Gen 1s, they had a valley pan, so the intake went on top of the valley pan. On the Gen 2s, the intake took place of the valley pan. So there's nothing under the intake, and you know, the Gen 1 doesn't have like the oil fill and stuff like that. It also had the thermostat integrated and some other stuff like that. So it is a little bit different. If we also look, it had the heat crossover for the choke tubes and stuff, I believe, is the same way it worked on this one. On these, they just had little tubes in the heat crossover. So that took exhaust gas and helped with the choke. So it had holes on each side. You can see this one's blocked off. This one's not. The one in the car over there, they're both blocked off. So those are kind of the differences. As you can see, taking a look, we have two intake runners here, two intake runners here. They're very similar. So let's take a look at the opposite side. Oh, and while we're up here, you can kind of see in those ports, they're just very straight ports. They're very clean, nice and smooth. This is a cast intake, and it's just got a little bit of a different, I guess, travel system for the air. So you can see it goes here and it takes a 90-degree right away, whereas that's pretty much straight on. It's going to flow better. So let's flip these over and take a look at the bottom sides. All right, so here we have the bottom sides. Just first things first, comparing the ports, I guess they're fairly similar in size. The Gen 1s are a little bit wider, whereas these are maybe a little bit longer, depending on how you look at it. If you do notice, those ports are almost in identical positions, so that'll make the swap very convenient. Again, just kind of looking at how the intake air flows, it's just a straight-on design, whereas this one, one runner might be kind of straight through here, but the other one's got to take a 90. It's just not a great flow or design flow. So that's that. We do have an intake. This is a Gen 1 AMC intake. If we look over here, you can see there's a little room for gasket matching on these, which I did do on the intake on the car right now. But if you take a look here, although slightly different, kind of hard to do with one hand, sorry. They are very similar. So we'll be able to use the same gasket. We will be able to kick these out a little bit. There's a lot of, I think there's quite a bit of metal there where we can kick that out and make some more room for ourselves. So the plan is for this one is we gotta obviously cut through here and cut through here. This whole thing is where your oil would come down through, or you have oil coming through here as well. So this would all vent to the crank. We no longer need this. As you can see here, there's nothing venting to the crank because we had that valley cover. So we're gonna have to basically cut all the way through here and cut down through there. Cut all this out. There are some things that we're gonna retain, I think more so back here, but yeah, so just a few cuts. And from what I've read, people are just kind of drilling like 1/4-inch pilot holes all the way through. And it's aluminum, it's pretty soft, that might not be too difficult. I would like to try and get a grinder in here and just kind of grind away and see how I can do that. I need something a little smaller than what I just got, if you saw it in my last video, the Milwaukee angle grinder, but definitely an option. So there are the two intakes together again. People have gained some decent power in the butt dyno, it sounds like. So I don't know that there are any dyno videos yet of people showing what they actually make for power on these, and we're probably not going to do that either. But it should look a lot cleaner, and if it picks up a little power and it makes it a little bit more unique, I'm all for it. So this is part one of the intake video. I wanted to make sure you guys understood the differences before we started cutting into them. So in part two, we will start cutting a little bit. We might get all of our cutting done. We'll see. But yeah, if we look again, just before I end the video here, I will get a flange made similar to this gasket. We're going to get rid of this exhaust crossover, so it'll just be straight through here. So I'll get that flange made. You can either get a flange made and run 2 gaskets and just bolt everything in, or you can weld everything to the flange. So I would like to go the welding route. I don't weld aluminum, so we'll see how we're going to do that. But that is it for part one of the intake video. Next video, we'll be cutting this guy apart and starting to get things in a in a form that looks proper for the car. So stay tuned for that, and we'll be uploading that shortly.